Hello everyone, this is Tom Capshew, and I'm excited to bring you another segment of the Bene Mudra Spiritual Summit, put together by James Bene. What I'd like to talk to you about today is a segment of a new book that is coming out that I'm writing called Consciousness Rising. I'm also creating a digital course for this material, and this will be part of it. So the content in this is called investment thinking. You know, a lot of times we think that our thoughts are kind of come to us just on a whim and we don't have much control over them. But what I know is when we get into a place of our higher consciousness, of our consciousness controlling our thoughts, then we get into a place where we can examine the content of our thoughts and whether we are investing in things that advance us or that just spiral us down into negative patterns. And so what I'd like to share with you today is this exercise that is in the book and in the digital course, and it requires you to find a piece of paper and a pen and draw a couple lines on that that look like this. Just one line across the middle on a landscape, and then divide the page into two other sections. So what we're going to look at is where we think about things and where we invest our thinking. And if you look at the columns, the three columns, when you look at the two rows, the top row we can say is positive, and the bottom row is negative. Then if we go to the columns, we can divide up all of our thoughts that we have every day into three different categories. Oftentimes we think about the past, and so we can have positive thoughts or negative thoughts about the past. We can think about the present, about being fully present in this moment, and we can think about the future. So what we're going to do is look at those 6 categories and have you decide how much of your daily thoughts are coming into those 6 different categories. So let's talk about them a little bit so we've got a clearer idea of what they are. First of all, when you have past positive thoughts, what do we call that? Well, a lot of times we can call that good memories or nostalgia, things that have happened in the past that we're happy about. And what about things that have happened in the past that we're not so happy about? Well, those would be negative past thoughts, which we could talk about, we could call bad memories or mistakes or trauma or guilt. All of those are labels that we could use for that category. Let's move now to the present category. When you have thoughts of the present, you can have positive thoughts in the present. Those would include happiness, joy, things like that. Or you could have negative thoughts in the present, complaining, being in a grumpy mood, looking at the negative. All of the negative feelings that we have are associated with negative thoughts. So mad, sad, afraid, all of those fit into that category. Then if we look at the future, we can have positive thoughts about the future. What do we call those? Well, we could call them goals or dreams, or my favorite term is positive futures, investing in positive futures. And the last category is future thoughts that are negative. We've all been there. So those include fears, worrying, what I call negative futures investing in a negative outcome in the future. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to take a few minutes and work this table, and imagine if you look at the last 30 days of your life. If you take all of the thoughts that you've had in the last 30 days, I want you to start putting into these 6 boxes the percentage of thoughts that you've had in the last 30 days, with all 6 boxes combined totaling 100%. So for example, if you spend a lot of time worrying about the future, you are always afraid that something's not going to work out or the other shoe's going to drop, then you probably would put a good percentage of your 100% into that negative future box. So take just a couple of minutes and go from the thing that you do the most with your thinking, the category that would fill the most, and then fill in the other categories with smaller and smaller amounts until the total of all of the categories equals 100%. I'm going to pause here for a moment for you to fill that out. So now that you've filled out those 6 categories, with all 6 of them being 100%, let's take a few minutes and take a look at what you've decided your past thoughts have been, where you've invested your thoughts in the last 30 days. One of the ways to do it is to add up the columns. So if you add up the past, both positive and negative, the present, both positive and negative, and the future, both positive and negative, what do you get for those totals for percentages? Many people I work with have a huge percentage of future negative, and so that usually is the leading category. I do a lot of trauma work, and a lot of times people are so focused on what's happened in the past that they can't move on from the past and live in the present or in the future. And so a lot of people are heavily loaded into the past. The mindfulness movement that's been going on for a few years now teaches us to spend more time in the present. So if you've been practicing mindfulness, you may see that you've loaded up that present column more than the past or future. And if you have, that's great. Keep it going. So that's one way to examine the chart so far. The other way is to add up the percentages in the columns. So add up past positive, present positive, and future positive, and then put a percentage out at the column, and then past negative, present negative, and future negative with a percentage. When you do that, what do you learn about how much time you're investing in negative thoughts, or how much time you're investing in positive thoughts? So those are all ways to examine what's happened in the last 30 days in your investment thinking. The next step is to think about the next 30 days. If you had control over your thoughts, and I know that you do, even if you don't think you do, where would you invest those thoughts? Take a minute and put into this chart the percentage of investment that you'd like to make into the next 30 days. Where would you like to spend most of your thinking? Where would you like to invest that? So take a minute and put in percentages that, again, total to 100. And we'll pause for a moment and let that happen. So now that you've put in percentages for how you'd like to invest your thinking in the next 30 days, look at the difference. Look at the difference between the last 30 days and the next 30 days. Are you happy with that? Are you seeing like there's a big change that could be possible? So you get to choose how to move from where you were investing your thinking to where you're going to invest your thinking. For example, if you found in the last 30 days you've spent a lot of your thinking investment in future negative, then all you have to do is flip the switch to move it to the positive, to the future positive. How much has it helped for you to spend all of that energy worrying, that future negative? It doesn't do us any good. It's wasted energy. If you simply take that percentage and move it up into future positive, then you're investing in manifesting something that is going to satisfy you and to enhance your life and build your quality of life. Because what we know about thinking is that everything in the world has been created twice. First in our mind, and then in the material world. So if you're spending all your time investing in future negative, you're going to create that. If you spend most of your time investing in future positive, then you're going to create something good for you, something that you want, a goal, a dream, a vision, living into your potential. Same thing with present negative and positive. If you were loaded in the last 30 days in present negative, try flipping the switch. One of my favorite exercises to flip the switch when I go negative in the present moment, when I'm grumpy or decide that what's happening right at the moment isn't good, is I'll turn on the gratitude. I'll just make a list of things that I'm grateful for in that moment. One of my favorite sayings is, gratitude is caffeine for the soul. Gratitude helps shift you in the present moment from negative to positive, because we all have something to be grateful for all the time. For example, I'm grateful that I've got air to breathe right now. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look for it. I don't have to pay for it. All I have to do is inhale and exhale. Thank you, Spirit, for creating a world where I can breathe and not even concern myself about it. So if in the last 30 days you're loaded up with past negative, then maybe it's time to start working on shifting those thoughts into, they usually don't manifest into past positive, because there's some things that happen to each of us that we regret or don't feel good or that are traumatizing. So maybe it's time to invest in, how do I put those things behind me by turning them into a strength, moving from victim to survivor to thriver. And so we all have to work on that process and move through it. So those are examples of investment thinking. You've looked at the last 30 days and looked at your investment to see whether you need to redistribute your investment. And you've looked at the next 30 days and you've set your intention to make a better investment of the way that you think and the things that you think about. So that's investment thinking. If you look at the top half of the chart, I like to call that the bank of heaven. That helps me feel good, helps me get my goals met, helps me to move on in the world and have contentment and happiness. And of course, the bottom half of that chart, we could call the bank of hell, because when you invest your thinking in future negatives, it doesn't do any good and it just creates your own suffering. So this is one example of the worksheets and information that will be available in my new book, Consciousness Rising. It's I'm in the process of editing it to finish it up. I've also started developing a digital online course that will be available in the summer, this summer of 2019. And it's going to be called Consciousness Rising, Heart-Centered Living. The book should be out in the fall, so look for that as well. The way that you can know when these offerings are available is to follow me. I've got Instagram at Thomas Capshew, Facebook at Thomas Capshew PhD, or Consciousness Rising World, and LinkedIn. Just type in Thomas Capshew and it'll come to my profile. So those are the ways that you can follow me. You can also visit my website. I've got some free CDs or free MP3s. I just got done recording some more meditations and had a discussion about CDs or MP3s, but I've got some free MP3s of meditations of a particular type of meditation that I do called unitive meditation. So you're welcome to go to my website and sign on for my email list, and that'll keep you up to speed on when the rest of this material is available. So I'm wishing you a fantastic 2019. I feel like this year is going to be the cusp of switching into a higher consciousness throughout the world that's going to benefit each and every one of us. So all the best to you. Thank you.